Comment is now closed. We go on to consent items number 1 through 13. Public comment is now open, and we do have a speaker request. Larry Peters, would you please like to go to the podium and talk about item number 9, which is purchasing authority for wastewater collection jet vacuum truck from Sourcewell contract number 122017-FSC and state bid contract number 17111 for a total of $308,700 or $276. Mr. Peters. Yeah, just hand it over to her. She'll.
I'm here to speak about the land.
Right. The land? I think you might have the wrong. You might have the. He's a realtor? Sir, I think we have the wrong item. What do you think it is?
That's 16.
Anybody watching this at home, we're just trying to determine.
16?
16?
Yeah, that's what I.
Okay. All right, so we're removing number 9 from the public consent concerns, and we'll go on to items from the committee here, items they may want removed. So Chair will recognize Lisa Modrick.
4.
Item number 4. Is that it? Anything else, Lisa? No?
That's it for me.
Okay. Motion to adopt with the exception of number 4 from Alderman Nordstrom. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second from Roberts. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and so the consent items are passed with the exception of number 4. Authorize staff to advertise for bids for Tower Court Storm Sewer Outfall Stabilization Project number 18-2455/CIP number 51203, estimated cost $375,000. And Ms. Modrick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I ask Dale a question?
Sure.
Hi, Dale. For the record, I know I have spoken on Tower Court and the hillside stability before, and now we're moving forward with a cost of $375,000 for the sewer outfall stabilization. And right now, in the condition of that right-of-way, the entire hillside slope is failing on multiple parcels to include where the city's right-of-way is. And what I need to ask from you is how we will be protected once we put the investment of tax dollars of $375,000 into this sewer outfall and its stabilization. Where's our guarantee on that with the condition that it is in its state now?
I'm not in any position to give you any guarantee. We have an imminent situation there with the water main as well as stormwater drainage. We need to fix it. We have to do something. In order to keep that water system live and viable, we've got to go in and do something. We've had an engineer do the design. Obviously, the geotechnical concerns in this area are severe. And that has all been considered in the design that they have brought forward to the city to perform this work. So I can't make any guarantee that this is going to last forever. Certainly we have confidence that it's going to fix it, certainly in the near term, and we anticipate that it'll serve the community for quite a long time.
So knowing that the hillside is in the condition it's in, which obviously is going to take engineering on several parcels, Will the city be involved in that so that we are protecting our right-of-way and making sure that our infrastructure, our new infrastructure changes are secure? Do we have, will we be, we'll be involved in that?
Most certainly. If there's
Thank
any
you.
sort of grading work, slope stabilization, the city will certainly be looking at that issue, yes.
At the time it's permitted?
Well, at the time any sort of work is being proposed.
Thank you. Thank you for putting that on the record. Thanks, Madam Chair.
All right, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Dale Tech, please. Mr. Tech, just to clarify, this is for the entire project, or just want to make sure this is the design phase?
This is to bid a project to replace the water main and to extend the stormwater drainage down the hill to stop the erosion that's occurring from the outfall from the stormwater drainage on Tower Court. So the project has been designed. This is to authorize to advertise for bids.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, good questions, and do we have a motion? Motion approved by Nodrick, second?
Second.
Second by Roberts, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let it be shown that Modrick stood in opposition and that the item is passed. So that brings us on to non-consent items. Public comment is now open on items 14 through 16. So now we have Larry Peters. This is your moment, so go ahead and approach the podium.
Hi, I'm here today on behalf of Peter Wodenka, who has purchased that property opposite Catherine Avenue along Haynes Avenue, 6 acres. Because of the success that we had with a recent development or project along Catherine Avenue, and because of the future school use potential, the parks and the views, and the growing neighborhood community there, we wanted to duplicate our success there and do that on the 6 acres that you're now looking to rezone again. When we bought this property, before we bought it, it was zoned urban residential. And when we closed on it, it was changed to general commercial, and we were told that we had to put in a sewer line and guarantee it. So we did that. We closed on the lot. We guaranteed it. We did complete the sewer line. And so I'm asking that you suspend that item 16 so that we have a chance when Peter gets back in about 6 weeks to work with the city to try to get rezoning to MDR. We want to, and you have a copy of the new plat by KTM that was done about the time that we closed.
Okay.
And we want to rezone that to MDR. We want to do some fourplexes, single family, and twin homes in that area. And it's going to be up opposite Catherine. And the roads go all the way through to the land on the other side. And those roads, I'm sure, will go over to Seeger one of these days. And if we don't put them in, somebody else may. So we'd like to ask that you suspend that and give us a chance to work with the city on this.
So you're asking for a continuance. Do you have a date in mind that you would like to revisit this?
Well, when Peter gets back,
Of 16, we wouldn't have to suspend the
Okay,
whole thing.
okay,
Item number 9
all right.
and 16.
Okay, gotcha. So we're just going to suspend this for now? Okay.
if you would.
Okay, I will take that up when we get to the voting phase of this, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Bob Borgmeyer on item 16. Yes, you?
Were you on 16? Is there a map that you have? In case my eyeball.
My name is Bob Borgmar. I just got up from Tucson, unrelated to whatever this is. How are you? A friend of mine told me that land on us or near us or something is on this plan. I haven't seen anything. Are there maps that Mr. Young is going to show as part of the item 16? Or may I go off this?
Well, I'm not sure what you have right there, but we do
Okay.
have a presentation.
So I'm looking at this for the first time. I don't know anything about it, and then I'll get out of the way here. We own, as some of you know, we own a 3,000-acre ranch north of Deadwood Avenue. We own a 2,000-acre ranch out Sheridan Lake Road. So one of these is Deadwood Avenue down by Interstate 90. Too far away to be of interest to us, okay? But not that we have any influence over it. And this is all new, something at the intersection of Dunsmore and Sheridan Lake Road, okay? We have no legal obligation to be informed about that. We know nothing about it. It is not contiguous to our land, so I'm not in a position to take any official position on it, okay? I appreciate it. I'll understand this a little bit more in the next week. It doesn't involve our property. It has some, impact, if only because we own 1,800 acres a half a mile north of there. Sorry to kind of be so abrupt like this, but okay. Thanks for the use of your map.
Thank you, and when this comes in again, we'll have more information for everyone, so we'll have...
My hearing is terrible.
Okay.
Particularly in a room like this, and I'm not prepared to have a cogent conversation, or I don't mean to be impolite, Darla, or John, who know me, okay? I'm just trying to catch up with, obviously, something that's been in the works that I just wasn't aware of. Not
No
that
problem.
I should legally have been aware of it, but I should have de facto been aware of it by somebody, okay?
You were
Not
out of town,
necessarily
and
the government.
it's understandable, so, and it's going to come back before us again anyway,
Okay,
so...
have a good day.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the closure of public comments, and it was very interesting. So we'll go on to the committee here and engineering. Number 14, request from Ryan Gruba for a variance to waive the requirement to install sidewalk along Sturgis Road and Pine Hills Drive, Rapid City per ordinance 12.08.060. Staff recommendation is to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Modrick, second by Nordstrom to approve. All in favor? Aye. And the motion passes. Did I misspeak? Did I say Nordstrom? I'm sorry.
You can have it.
Okay. 15, appeal by Dream Design International, Inc. of an exception request denial to allow for more than 40 dwelling units in with one point of access per section 2.6 of the Infrastructure Design Criteria Manual, IDCM. A single access can only serve 40 dwelling units unless an exemption is approved by the City Council. The staff recommendation is to deny. Richie Nordstrom's in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've had a request here to make a motion to continue this item to the July 9th Public Works Committee meeting.
Okay, motion by Nordstrom, second by Roberts, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so this will continue till July 9th, for anybody that's interested in that one. Now we're up to 16, which seems to be a point of confusion for me. Approval of resolution 2019-046, request by the City of Rapid City to consider an application for a comprehensive plan amendment to revise the city's future land use plan. And the staff recommendation is to approve, and then we'll go to Kelly on this one.
Good afternoon, Kelly Brennan, Long Range Planning. So back in January, we asked Planning Commission to support a comprehensive plan amendment. It's recommended in the plan that we routinely look at the land use and as things change, make corrections. So what we did is we started looking at the mapped areas that I've got shown up here, where either because of developer-driven changes or mistakes that were made in the original comprehensive plan, or changes that were needed due to previously rezoned properties. to make them come into compliance. I can go through each of the maps. We had kind of discussed not doing that and just generally speaking, but we may want to do that since we've got some conversation right now. So I'm going to go quick because there's 34 of them. But stop me if you have any questions.
I'm going to just allow this, and then you guys can make any stops if you want to, okay?
Okay, item number 1. This is the intersection of Deadwood Avenue and Interstate 90. We're changing from light industrial to mixed-use commercial. This would enable development of a wider variety of commercial uses, including tourism-based for this area. Number 2, this is north of Main Street along the railroad tracks from West Boulevard to West Chicago Street. When MG Oil demoed their building, it gave us an opportunity to change this last little strip of industrial through the middle of the city to change it to mixed-use commercial. That's going to just promote development of different uses on that corner especially. Item number 3 is southwest of the intersection of St. Patrick Street and Roosevelt Avenue, and item number 4 is northeast of the intersection of Floorman Street and Pendar Lane. Both of these properties are existing residential uses, so this is just kind of a cleanup. So this is the area east of Creek Drive along North Valley Drive, northeast of the intersection of North Creek Drive and Camden Drive, and then east of the terminus of, northeast of the intersection of, east of the North Creek Drive along North Valley Drive. Sorry, there's a lot of norths in there. So this is a change that we're bringing forward that is developer-driven. We have seen a master plan brought forward by the developer showing some very specific uses. This is going to allow residential and commercial growth in this area. Item number 6 is east of the terminus of East Anamosa Street. This is a change from mixed-use commercial to urban neighborhood. This again is developer-driven. We've seen a master plan and some platting to provide single-family and multifamily residential lots. This is one of the areas that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit, why we're doing this comp plan amendment. When the comp plan was made and they designated the future land use categories for specific areas, we didn't really know what was going to happen. So when we get a developer that comes in, he's not asking for anything that's weird or that's not appropriate for the area. We're more than willing to change some boundaries and work with the developer to get what they need and what the community needs. Okay, item number 7 is the west side of North Elkvale Road from Concourse Drive to approximately 350 feet north of East Anamosa Street. This area is primarily zoned industrial currently, and one of the goals of the comprehensive plan is to preserve industrial space within the city. So we're just going to make that change to match the zoning and to preserve that industrial space. Number 8 is on the east side of North Elkvale Road, from approximately 500 feet south of Homestead Street to approximately 2,500 feet south of Cheyenne Boulevard. And this changes from urban neighborhood, this proposed changes from urban neighborhood to mixed-use commercial. This is just to encourage commercial growth along Elkvale, which is a principal arterial. Urban neighborhood does allow residential uses, and we felt that a buffer between the Elkvale high-speed road and the surrounding residential was a good idea. Item number 9 is the east side of Haynes Avenue and Catherine Avenue intersection. So this item is zoned, or this area, excuse me, is zoned general commercial. We wanted to change the future land use to match that underlying zoning. I know that we had a gentleman in the audience today talking about this one, and one of the things that is happening right now is we actually have an application for a rezone that's going to go on City Council Monday night for the property just north of this property. City staff has recommended to approve that rezone to general commercial, partially based on the fact that this commercial corridor running up the east side of Haynes is continuing. We don't feel that having a residential use in between two commercial uses on a principal arterial is an appropriate use for that property. Item number 10, this is northeast of the intersection of Mall Drive and Seeger Drive, change from low-density neighborhood to urban neighborhood. So this is another area, that little triangle piece to the west was rezoned about a year ago. And part of the recommendations on that rezone were to continue that urban neighborhood all along Seeger there, just to make it a continuous land use. Okay. 11A, B, and C are changing to, or are being proposed to change to low-density neighborhood. These are mostly cleanups. These are existing or presumed residential lots. They're platted in that way, and we've seen some master plans that are showing that in the future. 11C, which is kind of hard to see, is actually just a sliver. That was a mistake. It's just an error, a map error. 11D, E, and F, which is that low-density neighborhood and mixed-use commercial, changing to urban neighborhood. The thought process behind this one is to create a buffer between the single-family residential to the northwest and the commercial to the south. And that urban neighborhood designation does facilitate both single-family, multifamily, and office commercial uses. We like to use urban neighborhood as a buffer between your real heavy commercial use and more of a residential use. So then on the other portion of this, 12A and 12B, 12A is just extending the employment center designation to the principal arterial. It's kind of odd to have a strip of residential along that principal arterial there. And then the 12B, we're changing or proposing to change just due to the fact that as that develops, we expect that to be commercial along those two major streets. Item number 13 is northwest of the intersection of Parkview Drive and 5th Street. This is kind of the last little single LDN along a main thoroughfare. It's a single lot of residential on a principal arterial. We propose to change it to employment center to just continue that land use all through that corridor. Number 14 is north of the intersection of East St. Patrick Street and Creek Drive. The proposal is to bring LDN to light industrial. This area is currently zoned mostly industrial. There is quite a few uses in there, but it also consists primarily of floodplain. Item number 15 is north of East St. Patrick Street, east of Sedivy Lane to west of South Valley Drive. The proposed change is from mixed-use commercial to light industrial, and this is one of those areas that development has just happened in a light industrial nature. If you've ever driven by there, that's just the feel of that area. So hopefully we can continue helping the developers there. 16A, which is the green one on the right-hand side, that's northeast of the intersection of East St. Patrick Street and South Valley Drive. We're proposing to change from urban neighborhood to park. Sorry, I can't read that. Park, my paper's ripped. Anyway, that area is a drainage and wetland area. There's currently just a tower there, a Hago Broadcasting Tower. The city doesn't see any changes in that area, and so we're just changing the use to a more appropriate one. So this is southeast of the intersection of East St. Patrick Street and South Valley Drive, or excuse me, apologize. We're on, I went too far. Okay. So 16B, C, are what we call Johnson Ranch area, and this is another developer-driven change. The developers come forward with a master plan showing us a mix of single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses. So we've got the commercial, mixed-use commercial along the major roads. We've got the urban neighborhood as a buffer to the low-density residential to the back. And then south, The southern portion there, number 17, that's another developer-driven one. They're proposing in their master plan some multifamily. So this is over by Oakvale and from approximately 700 feet north of Minnesota Street along Marlin Drive. These changes are coming forward to not only match the underlying zoning, but to also just create a more flexible range of uses to promote development. As you can see in 19B, that was originally mixed-use commercial and is obviously residential lots. Number 20 is southwest of the intersection of Motherlode Drive and Bent Drive. This proposed changes from mixed-use commercial to LDN, low-density neighborhood. This is a cleanup. This is an existing residential lot that never got changed. These are the type of mistakes that we're looking for that just somehow got missed. It doesn't make sense to have just a commercial property right there, obviously. Okay, so this, number 21, is south of Minnesota Street along Shaker Drive, Jasper Lane, and Millstone Way. This change is proposed public to LDN. And again, this is a cleanup. Those are obviously existing residential lots. The last one, number 22, north of the intersection of Jackson Boulevard and Empey Drive. We have one single-family dwelling unit in that area, which is fine. None of this would change anything. They wouldn't, have any problems. But the employment center is a more appropriate use along a principal arterial, and it does match the future land use around it. So we see in the future that that probably will, if that home ever goes away, be more of a employment center use. So those are the map changes. Those are the actual map changes that we're proposing to make today. We are also proposing to make some changes to the neighborhood land use categories, the mixed use opportunity areas, and the zoning designations that fit in there. So if you look here, you'll see the highlighted items are items that we're adding to this table. And what we're doing is a couple things. So originally the uses were listed as primary and secondary, but we didn't have any secondary zoning. So you'd have somebody come in with a secondary use that the zoning wasn't listed in there as an acceptable zoning district. So we wanted to make sure that what was recommended as a primary and secondary use was also shown as an allowable zoning district. We also needed to add urban commercial. So urban commercial is the new zoning district east of 5th. It's not anywhere in here because when the comp plan was originally adopted, it didn't exist. We also added public as a secondary use to all of the land use categories. And that was just to help with if there's utility issues or anything like that. We just want public to always be allowed, public uses. Some of the biggest changes is to the urban neighborhood category, which you see on this page. We were adding quite a few secondary uses as well as primary uses. We really feel like urban neighborhood is kind of a good neighborhood category of, we're trying to promote mixed use and infill development, and while still respecting the character of a neighborhood, so you've got a lot of different choices that really open this up for developers. On the second page, we're also proposing to add not only urban commercial, but also office commercial as a secondary use in mixed-use commercial. And I will take a pause here to note that we did add that terminology on the bottom. Additional uses in zoning districts may be deemed appropriate by the community development director. Secondary uses within a land use category generally mean that a use is acceptable under favorable conditions and or to a limited extent. Secondary uses cannot be characterized as the predominant use. So this is just kind of giving staff and Ken the opportunity to be more flexible again with developers and people that come in while still protecting the land use designation. Sometimes there's just an individual situation that we want to be able to be more flexible with helping the growth. Those are pretty much the main changes on the table. Like I said, we did add the public category. And we didn't take out any of the changes, so we didn't restrict any of the land use categories. We just added additional zoning.
Kelly, is that the end of your report?
It is. I was just going to say if there's any questions or if we want to revisit something, I'm open.
There's going to be some questions, so let's go ahead and start with John Roberts.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, I do have a question. Going back to number 9, since we have a developer that's already put a plan or a subdivision plan on a piece of property, invested over $100,000, I believe, in the infrastructure already, and now we want to go in and change the zoning on it.
We're not changing the zoning. The zoning is general commercial. We're matching what the underlying zoning is. That property is zoned commercial today.
Really?
Has been since the year 2000. I actually pulled the rezone today to figure it out. It's been general commercial. We're just changing the land use to match that underlying zoning.
Oh, the underlying zoning. Yes, I understand that. Larry, can I ask you a question? Sure. Can you get up to the podium and tell us your name? And
I am Larry Petters.
so, Larry, I'm curious, when you bought this piece of property and you did title work on it, what was the zoning that came up on your title work?
Well, it seemed like it was urban residential, and then it was changed to general commercial when we bought it. And then, I don't know why, but that was indicated that general commercial was just a catch-all designation until there's a higher, more creative use.
Because you had to have all of the city write-off on doing this subdivision there, correct? You had to go through...
Yeah, and, you know, they knew we did Catherine Avenue, and they required us to put in a sewer line. So we are trying to comply with the city, and we've done that, and we wanted to move forward now and start creating the infrastructure on the lot.
Thank you very much. I've got another question, not for you, Larry, but for her.
There is no current rezone application on file for that property.
Okay.
So we just found out about this 2 days ago, that they had decided to have a low-density residential use along that principal arterial. City staff most likely will not support that type of rezone from general commercial, just based on the fact that not only are we supporting the rezone to general commercial north of the property, but also because it's along a principal arterial road, and it's going to be sandwiched between two general commercial zoning designations, so spot zoning in essence.
Yes, absolutely. I understand that.
so-
What I'm trying to figure out here is how they got this far into this process on a piece of property that they thought or they believed was low-density residential or urban neighborhood.
The land
So-
use was urban neighborhood. That's correct. Urban neighborhood does not allow for GC, which is why we were changing the land use to what does allow for GC, which is mixed-use commercial. So currently...
But mixed-use commercial doesn't allow residential.
Correct.
So what they're doing, in essence, is the plan that they have on it will not fit in this new zoning designation.
We're not changing the zoning designation. It does not fit in the current zoning designation. The land is zoned general commercial today.
Yes.
It is a general commercial use. We're just proposing to change the land use to match the current zoning.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to figure out how they got to the position they're at right now without knowing what the zoning on the property was. You know, they knew what the land use was.
The consultant
Okay.
should have let them know that it was a mixed-use, a general commercial property, and that a rezone would be required to develop as a residential use.
Okay. And I guess that's a question I have for Larry now. You can come back up here. You knew that this would have to be rezoned eventually?
Right, we did the same thing with the property on Catherine, was general commercial, and we rezoned that to MDR with a planned unit development.
Okay. Yeah, because you're kind of stuck in the middle of one here that I think is going to be very interesting, because I do agree that, you know, this is going to end up being spot zoning if we're going to zone it all, you know, commercial on that side of that property. This one I think is going to get very sticky and very interesting. So, interesting. Anyway, that's all I have for right now.
Oh, jeez. Yes, please. Right, okay. Chair recognizes Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for you, Kelly. Maybe a little bit of further clarification on the terms that are getting used today. The land use definition versus zoning, because I think there's some misunderstanding of what that means. Each one of them means.
So zoning is an ordinance. Zoning is what your property is. It is legally that. If you want it to be something different, you have to do a rezone. It's very specific in the ordinance what is allowed, what the setbacks are, whether you need sidewalks, what uses are prohibited, if there's exceptions, if there's stipulations. It's all in the municipal code. The land use plan is a more flexible way for planners to predict or hope how the city grows. So this is what we want to see. This is what's good for the community. So it's just another tool that's been adopted by City Council to help that growth along and to protect people. Because part of the thing is you know, you hear stories all the time of people who buy property and then across the street becomes general commercial, for example. You know, if you spend $250,000 on your dream home and all of a sudden a Walmart goes in across the street, you remember how that went. People weren't happy. So what we try to do is create buffers and zones and land use areas to kind of help that growth along in a good way, I guess.
I'm not prepared to ask you any more specific questions on this number 9 right now, but using this as an example for land use changing to zoning, a different zone use, using the example that we had out in the industrial park over on Concourse and so on. And I can't remember the cross streets and all of that, but we had a church school move into that neighborhood, which was zone industrial.
Correct.
And then, so there is some provisions, and I'd like to have you explain how that provisions is allowed so that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened in that circumstance is that is a zoned industrial area. Okay, so the applicant brought in a application and said, we would like to put this use here. And I believe they changed it to office commercial. I could be a little bit backwards on that. But so city staff recommended denying that rezone application based on the future land use, based on the surrounding zoning, based on the feel and character of the neighborhood. City council approved that rezone. So that changed. That legally changed to office commercial. The future land use, however, is not going to change. It's still going to stay industrial because we still want that to be industrial. So does that make sense? Where
yes.
Zoning is a legal specific thing, whereas land use is a little more flexible. Now, if the applicant were to come forward and say this all passes and nothing changes except for exactly what you see here today, and he comes forward with a rezone application, the land use is one of the tools that we're going to use to say, no, we don't really think this use is appropriate for that property, but we're also going to look at the adjacent property zoning.
Yeah.
The fact that it's on a principal arterial, or, you know, drainage, we look at all kinds of things. This is just one of the tools in planning that we use. So say we come forward and we say we recommend to deny that rezone. It can still go through.
Yes.
We don't make that decision. We just try to guide the council with, you know, all the tools that we have.
Yeah.
Land use is one of those tools.
Thank you. And I think what I'm trying to get to is that once we have the land use established, that doesn't mean it's set in concrete. And we'd like to have it, you know, designed for specific uses, but using the example out on Concourse, it doesn't mean that that's an absolute for a rezone or cannot change the rezoning part of it versus the land use.
Correct.
Am I making sense
Yep.
on that? So it does have, I'm going to use the word wiggle room. We do have some allowances that we can, that say, for example, the developer comes forward with and makes us.
He will have to rezone the property no matter what
Yes.
to put in residential uses. Whether or not the land use changes today, I mean, that is just one of the portions of the things that we will look at when a rezone application comes in. Like I said, we'll look at all different kinds of stuff. In the end, City Council decides on that rezone or not.
And then one of the final questions I have is that, can you tell the public where the land uses are located in the comprehensive plan, or am I looking for zoning definitions? You gave us some examples here on the changes of that. Can you direct us or guide us to where those are located within the comp plan?
Sure, they're in Chapter 11. The
Chapter
tables
11.
are located in Chapter 11.
So if somebody wants to find some specific uses for a piece of property, this is more of a guideline than would help them out, what we can allow in.
Well, if you want specific uses, you need to look at the zoning, and that's in the
Yes.
municipal code. If you want, so if you look at this table that I had up there, it's kind of broad. It says stuff like a range of medium to high-density housing types, such as townhomes, apartments, small single lots, duplexes, patio homes, assisted living centers, and live-work units as a primary use. A secondary use could be neighborhoods serving retail, small markets, restaurants, drugstores. So these are guidelines. The zoning is what actually allows something or doesn't.
Yes, and I think that's what I want to make the distinction of, that the land use is guidelines, yes, and versus the ordinance says thou shalt.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Let me stop here, Madam Chair, and I think that's enough for now. For
I
me.
think we need a lot more information on this. So I guess just a couple of questions from me. Is this a report that you do each year, but we've just not seen it? Or what triggered this particular report?
So the comprehensive plan recommends annual or semi-annual updates. We didn't have a community development director for quite a long time, as you know, and so when Ken came on, he said we should be doing this. This is recommended in the comp plan. These are necessary changes. And so we kind of put a team together and started the process. We came to Planning Commission on January 10th and said, would you sponsor a comprehensive plan amendment? They voted to do that. We brought forth these changes. So this hasn't actually happened since a big city-sponsored comprehensive plan amendment, since the comp plan was adopted in June of 2014. We are planning on doing these twice a year, June and December. If you ever see a land use issue on the maps, or you know of something, let us know. We'll look at it. Our team will get together and we'll work on each of these. I don't foresee the next ones being anywhere near this large, because we're playing catch up on a lot of properties that were rezoned and weren't fixed in the land use. So I don't foresee that the next one will be this much of this large.
Actually, I would expect it to be just as large, because we are growing and we are looking at properties in different ways, and your job will not get smaller.
Well,
So-
we're just hoping that we've caught a lot of the mistakes
I hope so.
that have already happened. So.
Okay. And as far as you mentioned some of the property out, let's see, where there was a Howgo Broadcasting Tower is going to be now Parks and Greenway. Is that maintained by the city? Is that what makes the change there, or what does it mean to us?
The city does not maintain that property, no. It is owner maintained. So Parks and Greenway the uses are parks, greenway, trail system, and recreational facilities with a secondary use of drainage, ways, and utilities. If you're familiar with that property, it's a wetland almost.
Okay.
It's not really a buildable lot. This is just more of an appropriate land use. We were doing a lot of changes in the Johnson Ranch area and just figured, let's fix that one
so
too.
There's no maintenance?
Nope, there's
yeah.
nothing changes for the city's responsibility.
Okay, so well, I like wetlands, actually, so thank you. They serve an ecosystem that we need. So, mosquitoes, hey. We need those. Bats eat them? Anyway, so back to the resolution here. It seems like we have enough information to make a motion, possibly. We'll go to John Roberts, see what he would like to do on this.
Thank you. And I apologize for the misunderstanding. I didn't realize that the underlying zoning was general commercial. And I just want to kind of explain to Larry, there's really no reason to hold this up. Because with the zoning already being general commercial, like she said, you coming forward, you're going to still have to rezone that property. So, there's really no reason to pull 9 off of there right now, and we might as well just go forward with it, and I'd like to make that motion.
I'll allow that you've spoken and still making a
Thank you.
motion. And a second from Nordstrom, so motion by Roberts, second by Nordstrom to go ahead and approve this, and then we'll make our decisions on some of the small things later. So the motion is to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
And it passes, 16 passes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Roberts, second by Nordstrom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And remember to vote today. Thank you, people.